Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Yes, you read that right. Today, we are finally finishing the last hole here at the Country Club of Pocatello, which oddly enough is not the 18th hole, it's actually the 12th hole. And we have this spot right here marked out for a very long par 3. And in fact, it's my only par 3 that is going to be over 180 yards long, which is fascinating to think about. I've decided this is going to be the final episode of my build. I was planning on making an editing episode where I go through and I make small edits to all the holes I've made, but I decided that would be pretty boring. And I'd rather just make a final video of the playthrough that I'm going to do and talk about some of the edits that I make. I'm going to do that in that video, so this is actually going to be the final episode. I've actually already made some major edits to the very earliest holes that I created over here on the front 9 in some of my earliest episodes, and it's been really fun to actually go back and see some of the work that I did before almost 8 months ago, maybe even more. I really feel like I've improved a ton since then, and it's been cool to see that going back through and editing this course, so I can't wait to share that with all of you in the final episode when I really show off this course and do my playthrough. But if you're enjoying the content, whether it's my design series here or the course reviews I've recently started doing, please make sure you subscribe and like the video. I'd really appreciate it. Without any further ado, let's just crack on here with the 12th hole. So our plan here today with the 12th hole is to make a really long, punishing par 3 that we don't really have on this course because, like I said in the intro, we've got this hole here at about 180 yards. I think this is our second longest hole. We've got hole number 6 over here, and this is only about 160. And then, of course, the last episode that we did, if I can find it over here, is hole number 17, and this is only 150 yards. We have 3 very short holes, but pretty demanding with how small the greens are. I think that we can do something here that will be very good for the variety of our par 3s, and I'm planning on a par 3 that's almost 240 to 250 yards. And there's a couple holes that I've played like this in real life. There's one that really stands out to me, and it's the Augusta Country Club here in Augusta, Georgia. And it's a course I got to play a bunch in my college days at Augusta University. It's actually the 12th hole there as well, and it's just one of those holes that it's really tough and challenging, but you remember it because it's like, what's the longest par 3 that I've played? Oh, of course, it's number 12 at Augusta Country Club. I'd love to have one of those on this course, and there's a couple things that you have to keep in mind when you're designing some of these big par 3s. First of all, it's that you're hitting a big club into the green. I mean, if it's 240 yards, you're hitting at a bare minimum. For me, it might be a long 3-iron, but for most people, it's a 3-wood or maybe even more if it's 240 yards. So you really have to pay attention to how big your green area is, because you can't have a green that's really small, especially in the style of this course, because I've had a lot of smaller greens on this course, and the course isn't very long. I have a lot of short par 4s, but when you have a big par 3 like this, you have to make sure that you make a big green site. So we're going to get in here, and I'm actually going to place down the green site, but the plan for the hole really is just to have a big old green moving from here all the way over, coming this way into the bunker a little bit, and I'm going to extend out this little plateau that I've made. And then the plan for the rest of the hole is to make this a similar rocky cliff face that I did over here at the 16th hole. I'm going to extend that, and I'm going to bring this all the way around this 12th green over here. It's going to be almost like a valley over here where I've just got a bunch of this random coastal planting like I've done over here. Then you've got the rocky cliff face over here separating the clubhouse from the actual course, and then not too much else planting. But we're gonna see if we can get this hole in under the 100% objects limit, and if we can't, I've got plenty of spots earmarked out as I've been going through that I think I can get rid of to save on planting for this hole. With all that said, let's get in there and let's actually build this green site out, because I want it to be big. I'm thinking almost 30 to 40 yards deep, but then almost equally as wide. I want it to be a very large green with just a bunch of fun hills in it, not necessarily tiers. I don't want it to be big tiers that are really punishing, but I want it to be very undulating, able to get shots closer to the pins that I'm going to set out if you use the correct slopes, because from 240 yards it's very difficult to control your ball 100% perfectly and be able to use slopes like you could with a wedge. But I want there to still be that option, but also still have the fun undulating slopes throughout the greens that have kind of become the style of this course. Let's get in there, let's lay this green surface down. I'm going to lay the tee boxes out as well, because I want this tee box here at about 250 yards or so, and then I'm going to put some of the tee boxes up here as well. So we're going to get all that done in this time lapse here. Let's get into it and let's start laying down these surfaces. So we've got this green laid down, and there's a bunch of stuff that I really like about this green. One of the major things is how there are lots of different individual little slopes, and there's kind of this knob in the middle of the green right here. What I really wanted, what my goal with this green was to be a big green like this, but have a lot of individual pockets. There are some holes where you do get severely penalized on this course in particular, just from the way that I've designed it. I wanted to avoid really penalizing people from being on the wrong side of tiers. I just wanted it to be a little bit more of a challenge if you don't get it into the pocket where the pin is. So for example, this is pin number 1 over here. If you miss this slope covering this knob and you get back down into this front section of the green, you've still got to putt at it, and you can definitely get this down in 2. It would be a difficult 2-putt, but it wouldn't be impossible. And so I think this green does a good job of being interesting while still being a very, very large green for a very large hole. It's 250 yards, so the green size is very appropriate, and I think these slopes match up with the size of it. So one thing I was noticing while I was doing this, I actually built a bunch of this green. You might have seen in the time lapse where I actually saved. It was because I had built this green already, and as I was sculpting it, my game just totally crashed. And it's not the first time it's happened recently. It's been in the last couple of days that I've been playing that it's actually been crashing on me, and I'm really curious what that is. I wonder if anybody else has been dealing with that. So let me know if you've been dealing with the game just completely crashing on you, because I lost all of my progress, so I had to completely rebuild this green. But I'm actually a little happy that it did, because I think it's turned out better. I really do enjoy the sides of this green. I think it looks very even, and it's a very consistent slope coming up to where the green is from the bunker. So I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and it actually turned out a little bit better than before it crashed. So I won't complain too much, but it is interesting that that issue's happening. Another thing I wanted to point out is if you look at this path here, so from the tee box, you can see that I did a little bit of work on this thing to the left, this connection from the road down to the bunker, and that took longer than I care to admit. I even planted it a little bit just so I could make sure that I felt it would look okay. This took a long time to get right. What finally did it for me, what brought it over the edge and I was actually able to make it look good, was this little bridge right here, which was another thing that I did not know. If you go into these standalone bridges here and you go to this bridge, this just is one of those bridges, I guess, and I didn't know this. If you go into Advanced Edit, you can actually raise it, rotate it on the Z axis, and you can also tilt it to the side like this. I had no idea that you could do that with these bridges, because underneath this, it is really difficult to connect the cart path texture to the bunkers. There's always a general bit of separation between the two surfaces. So I needed something that could bridge this connection, and finally I was able to find that bridge, and it was actually able to make it work, and I think it looks halfway decent as well. It serves as a pretty natural transition from this cart path section over to the bunker. And the reason I needed cart path was because the road into the course comes down this way. This is the way that I envision people traveling in and getting to the golf course. They come down this road. It actually starts way back here, and you come in and you go down this road. And I haven't done any of the sculpting through here particularly, but once we get over to here, I've done a decent job of making it look good. You travel down through here, and you get down and you go through these trees here, and then you pop out and you're at the range, and this is the putting green, this is the range, and this is the 9th green actually. And then you've got the clubhouse here on your right. I felt that was important to establish because I want this to feel like a real place. I don't want to feel like you just magically appear here. I want there to be an actual rhyme or reason to the way that things are laid out, and I want that sense of realism that you would need a place to get into this golf course at. You would need a drive in, and I think this serves as a perfect way to do that. With all of that being said, this path here, I don't think it's realistic to continue the cart path being in the bunker up to the road. I felt that that was a little artificial. So I wanted to have a transition point where you'd go from the bunkers up onto this little path so that you could safely cross the road and you could check both ways before you go across and then get back into the bunker, which is the rest of the golf course. Just a little bit of a footnote on this design here. This took me forever, and I wanted to acknowledge that I think that these details are what make courses in this game and courses in real life. I think that's what just gives them that sense of realism. It's that attention to detail that I think is so important in making a place come to life. So now where do we go from here? Well, really, all we got to do is plant. There's nothing left to do on this hole. I don't actually have any bunkers on this hole other than this waste bunker here, but the waste bunker's already done. I don't need to do anything else. Really, we're just going to get straight into planting this thing. the main areas we're going to work on, I think what I'm first going to do here in this first time lapse is I'm going to go through and I'm going to build this rocky cliffside over here all the way along this left side of the hole. And I'm going to see how it looks, and I'm going to see how much plant meter I have left to deal with, because I'd like to plant coastal planting all the way through here, but I'd like to know how much object meter I have left. That's going to be the focus for this time lapse here. I'm going to get this cliffside done, and then we're going to see how much we have left to plant the rest of this tree line up into here. Sorry, I should be using my cursor. We've got some coastal planting in through here, and then a lot of the treed sections going in through here to really to block this sight line. I don't want the golfers to be able to look over here to the right and see all this empty area. I want it to be very closed off. And then I also want to plant a little bit in here. I don't really want people to be looking back from this green and be able to see up into these areas, up into the 10th tee and even the 11th green. I kind of want to block that sight line as well, going all the way through here. So yeah, with that being said, let's get in there. Let's start planting this cliffside, and let's see how much object meter that we have left to do the rest of the planting for this hole. So I'm excited to get into it. Let's get after this planting. Here we go. As you can see here, we did finish up the 12th hole, but there's a bit of an issue going on here because, as you can see, the objects meter is at 99%. I don't think I'm going to be able to finish this area without having to delete some of the areas early on in the course, but I think I'm at peace with that decision. I think I'm okay taking away from other parts of the golf course that certainly were overplanted early on in this design process when I was still trying to figure out the way that this course works. I think I'm okay taking away from other areas because I think that this hole is going to look absolutely stunning. You can see some of this rock work that we've done here, and it's really going to be in the background a lot, so I didn't want to waste too much plant meter on it. I went pretty bare bones with it in general because there's going to be more planting in these areas here, so I didn't want to use too many plants up on this rocky cliff face. I'd rather use it down in here and try to conserve in that way. I think from a distance it looks really good. When you get a little bit closer, it might look a little bit bare in some spots, but in general, I think it does look good, and especially the areas up by the green, I think that looks a little bit better. A couple of the areas off in the distance, I think I'll look a little bit too bare, but we're just going to roll with it. I think it's okay, and I think it's going to be overshadowed anyway by the planting that we do in this section. So really all that's left to do on this hole is this tree line up here, which I'm going to be very I say this a little tongue-in-cheek because I'm certainly not a minimalist designer, but I'm going to be very minimal in the amount of trees that I use along this side of the hole over here, and then more of the heavy planting will come in these coastal planting areas that are around this bunker and around the green. So that's the plan as we go forward here, and I can't wait to get this thing done. And I might cut into this time lapse here once we actually hit the object meter limit and see what I have to do, because I don't know that I've ever reached 100% objects meter on a course before. So I hope it'll still let me plant and just keep going to completion with this hole, and then go back and be able to delete some different areas instead of having to go delete, then come back and plant some more. We'll see how it goes. It could be an interesting thing that comes up here, but I'm pretty happy with the way that this looks. It's not as detailed detailed as the area over on 15 and 16 is, but I'm okay with that because this is a lot further away from the playable areas than it is on those holes over there. So without any further ado, this could be the final time lapse here of the Country Club at Pocatello. We're going to jump in, we're going to finish the tree line up this right side and really block this sight line here, and then we're also going to do the coastal planting inside this waste bunker here. Let's get after it, let's start planting, and let's get hole number 12 done and the final hole here all complete. Let's get after it. Well, there we go. Check it out. We add this bush right here. Your course has exceeded its object limit. That is a bummer. So, yeah, we have reached 100%, unfortunately, and we still have all of these areas to plant here, and we have this tree line to get to as well. I'm halfway through a lot of the planting here. I probably cut out some of that time lapse, of course, but there's a fair bit left in here. And then I don't know how much is left here, but I'm going to have to go into some of these older parts of the courses, and I'm showing a couple of the edits I've made. This is a lot bigger of a green here. 7 as well. I had to expand this from 2K21 because that green was too small, and this green may even be too small. I may be editing this in the future. But there's some of these areas, check out some of these areas where I just really, at the beginning of the course, look at how many different sections of planting I did and how many of these little bushes I used. I'm trying to find these areas where I've overplanted at the beginning of the course, and I'm trying to figure out a way in which I can take those out without affecting the views that I created. And it's just going to be a tedious process. So I think what I've decided here is now that I've reached the object limit, I'm just going to go in and I think I'm just going to do a cut here, and I'm going to figure out how best I can get rid of some of the objects from earlier in the course and add it to this hole. So the next time you see this, I will have hole number 12 completed. So yeah, that's the plan. Let me get in there. Let me start deleting some of the old stuff that I did, the overplanting that I did, and hopefully we can make this, we can get hole 12 to where I envision it being. I think we have a pretty good concept here of what it's going to look like, but it still has a little bit of work to do, especially with some of the colors. But just adding this bush right here, I think this bush is one of the most important bushes for these areas because it just brings that contrasted color and it makes it look a lot more alive instead of this really monochromatic, very simple looking piece of planting. So you can see where I've finished these areas. Those look a heck of a lot better than some of these over here where I haven't quite done that. So I'm going to cut and then I'm going to come back and we're going to have hole number 12. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom. Here we finally have the 12th hole with all of the planting and all of the tree line complete. And I'm pretty happy with where this hole has ended up. As you can see, we have a lot of this coastal planting through here, and I think these areas look really good. They look a little bit darker than maybe some of these areas over by the coastline, and I think that's actually a good thing because it's a little further away from the coast. It doesn't quite have the straight on the coast feel that maybe this hole has, so I think it has a little bit more of the inland feel that it does over here between holes 14 and 16 over here, and that's kind of what I wanted to replicate down on this side of the course, is inland but also still coastal feel, and I think this does a good job of that. Looking over here at the tree line, you can see I said I was going to go minimal, and I say minimal again as a joke. It is not minimal planting, but it is meant to block the sight lines going through these trees, so I just kind of spammed some bigger trees just to block that sight line. It doesn't particularly look great, but I'm so low on plant meter that I just couldn't really spare any other plants to make it look maybe the way that I would have wanted to. The limitations of the designer have kind of hindered us in making that look incredible, and I think the views of this hole anyway are looking this direction, and you're going to be more focused down at the clubhouse, looking along this rock wall here on the left side, and also out to the ocean this way, that I think this is just going to blend into the background for most of the players. So I didn't feel it was an area that I needed to stress out, making it look really, really good, such as some of these areas over here. As you can see, once I get out of the F10 mode, I'm at 98% objects meter, which is actually 2% down from when I started that last time lapse. So you might be asking yourself, how did I get down to 98%? Well, I told you I was going to be taking away some areas on previous holes, which I did for a little bit. I got rid of a couple of planting in here, another one up in this area that really didn't change the look of this hole at all. Hole 7 still looks very similar to the way it does, and I didn't have much more that I wanted to get rid of, though. I think I got rid of one more area in there as well. And I was going through, and it just didn't quite add up to be enough plant meter that I was saving. So unfortunately, we have had our only casualty of designing this golf course, and it is our halfway house here on hole number 5. Can we get some Fs in chat? You were a beautiful building. You didn't serve anybody any drinks because the course wasn't open yet. You weren't the halfway house that we needed, but you will still live on in our memory as a great place and a great sight line on this 5th hole, but unfortunately your time came and we had to get rid of you to save object meter. So F's in chat. It was a great run, and I will be planting back over that once I go through the editing. It was really sad to get rid of that clubhouse because it was a clubhouse asset, but it wasn't a clubhouse. This is what it looked like beforehand, and you can see that I really liked it. I thought it was a great feature of this hole. It gave this hole a little bit of character, and I really liked some of the plants that went around it, those red flowers planted there. But I mean, I got rid of it, and it was an instant almost 3% objects back to me, to which I could design the rest of hole 12 and do the rest of the edits that I'd like to do to this course before I finally publish it. So sadly, the clubhouse is gone, but it will live on in our memories. So yeah, let's get back here to hole number 12, and let's actually play this hole. And I'm gonna play it on pin 3, and I'll bring the wind speed up a little bit. We'll just do it out of the north. I don't know. We'll just have it up a little bit. And we'll go to pin 3. And I think this hole is just going to be a really good long par 3. There is certainly a place for long par 3s on golf courses, and I think this hole, in my opinion, it does a good job of balancing the difficulty of the green site with the length of the hole. I think it is a difficult green. You can see I have this big swale in the middle of the green, but I think there's enough pins and there's enough room around the green that you should be able to get up and down a lot of the time. It's going to test your short game almost as much as it's going to test your that 240-yard range. So I think it's a good hole in that way. We got a 12-mile-an-hour wind, holy cow. So I'm playing this almost out about into here with it being a little bit downwind as well. And it's down 36 feet, so yeah, we got a little bit of a backstop behind this pin, but short is totally okay. Short, you're getting up and down almost every time to this pin, so I think that's one of the things that you have to evaluate when you're playing a hole like this is you're not going to hit a great shot all of the time, so you really need to know where am I going to miss it so that I have an easy up and down. I have no problems getting down with a 3, because if you make a 3 on this hole, you are beating the field most of the time. You're not struggling. Nobody's making birdie on this hole too often, and if you do make a birdie, you're almost getting a little bit lucky to make a birdie. So yeah, let's see if we can get this 5-iron up there. I don't know if this is quite enough club, but we're gonna try it. Oh man, I hit a big fast. It was enough club though. And I think this is okay. This is a decent spot because you're just chipping down this side of the green. There's not too much in your way. It slopes a little bit away from you, and you've also got this slope here. If you were on the other side of that slope, this would be a lot harder of a putt if you go past this pin. But being right here, this should be no problem. I should be able to get this up there somewhere close. Or just chip it in. We made our birdie. Look at that. How fitting is that? On our last hole of this course playthrough, I did make the birdie that I've been wanting so desperately. So there is hole number 12. I'm really happy with the way this hole turned out, and to be honest, I'm happy with the way the whole course has turned out. There's a ton of edits that I have yet to make, and I don't want to make an episode, like I said earlier, on the edits. I think I'm just going to do the edits, and then I'm going to publish sometime later this week. I'm going to get this course out, and I really hope you all enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed this design series as well, because to be honest, I've had so much fun designing this, and not only the design aspect in the game, but also putting together these videos. I came into this, I had no filming skills, no editing skills, no technical experience with coming up with videos like this, and so to be able to put together a YouTube series that maybe wasn't the most refined, I think there are a lot of people who can refine videos a lot better than I can, but I've just had so much fun with the challenge of it. It's been a whole fresh new experience and a fresh new challenge for me, and I've really had so much fun. So I hope that has shined through on these videos and that you all have enjoyed it as much as I have. And honestly, once I get this one published, I can't wait to start on the next one. It's going to be so much fun. The next course that I do is hopefully going to be bigger and better than this one, and I can't wait to get into it. I already have a plot set out, so I'm really excited to get into that course, but we still have to finish this course up. So I will get to working on getting this the way that I want it so that I can publish it and get it out there for all of you to play, and hopefully you all enjoy it. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, not only this episode, but if you've been around for any amount of time, thank you for watching all my videos on the Country Club at Pocatello. This has represented something, including the video time, probably 100 hours of work, and I couldn't be prouder of where it's at. There's a lot of edits to do, but I'm still so happy that I've been able to actually get all of the holes completed to a point where I feel comfortable just editing it and getting it out. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, make sure you subscribe and leave a like. I will see you all when I showcase this course in my next episode here at the Country Club of Pocatello, where I finally get to play it in its finished form for all of you. So thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.